My name is Alan, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about my background as a writer and explain some more about why I created this channel. So this might be a little bit of a long video. Feel free to take breaks if you need to, and maybe you'll be able to relate to some of the things that I went through as a writer, and how I got here. So I have been writing off and on since I was about 15, and I think the first series that I can remember really devoting a lot of time to was a series called Gorgon that was total, like, Mary Sue fan fiction, essentially. I was, creating a world for me to exist in and all these cool creatures, and that's kind of where I fell in love with writing and storytelling. And to be honest, I think I spent more time on creating, like, the world and the animals in that world than I did anything else. But over time, I continued working on other series, none of which are still, in progress. I've moved on to different things, obviously, and then I went to college, and in college I actually was an electrical engineer for 2 years at the University of Maryland, and then I switched degrees to English, language and literature, which was a big switch. And the reason I did that is at that point I knew I had one big passion at the time, which was movies, and I really wanted to be a screenwriter. So I figured with an English degree that might help me reach that goal. Well, I am not a screenwriter yet, but I can say that I'm not even sure screenwriting is my ultimate goal anymore, because I learned a lot about Hollywood and learned how much authority screenwriters have, which is basically none. And so I decided, well, maybe I'll start learning how to write fiction, prose, books, short stories, that kind of thing. So I graduated with an English degree in English language and literature. And funny enough, I didn't really write very much in college. I think, I don't know what, maybe I was a little bit distracted by other things going on at the time. Either way, I really didn't write very much for myself during college. It wasn't until my first job outside of college, that I started writing again. And I think that was my way of finding some creative outlet at a job that was pretty boring and pretty monotonous. And for about 2 years, I was really dedicated to finishing a book. I had started a new series called Reckoning of the Gods, which I'm someday going to finish. And I really wanted to finish a book, and I wrote several drafts, and, this is before I had kids, before I was married. So I had plenty of time. I could write 2 to 3 hours a day if I really wanted to. Now I'm lucky to get a half hour, but either way, it's not about the time, it's about the quality, right? So this kind of culminated, this writing period culminated with a retreat hosted by the Writing Excuses podcast team. For anyone that knows Writing Excuses, they have some really talented folks on that podcast. So it was, and now I'm blanking on the names, Mary Robinette Kowal, Dan Wells, Howard something, I'm forgetting his name, and then, of course, Brandon Sanderson, which is probably the name most people are familiar with. And at that retreat, it was eye-opening, I guess, in a good and bad way. It was really fun. Of course, I got to meet some other great writers. I got to talk to Brandon Sanderson one-on-one about a story that I had written. He read what I wrote, which is a claim to fame, I guess. And I came away feeling discouraged, I think, because I realized at that writing retreat that my prose and the level of writing that I was at was not where it needed to be, not where I thought it was, after reading other people's works and really understanding where I fit. So for a long time, I kind of stopped writing. And actually, right before that Writing Excuses retreat, I joined a writing group. And it wasn't the most positive experience, I have to be honest. There was one person in particular that was pretty toxic, and it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. So I didn't really try to join any other writing groups for a long time. And then, I guess I was writing off and on. A couple years after that, I actually started writing short stories for a short time, about a year or two. I was really trying to get something published, so I wrote about 6 or 7 short stories that are probably on my website still. And I submitted them with no luck to several publications, which is the way it goes. I did get a couple personalized rejections, which is like one step up from the form rejection. And then I kind of, again, I guess I gave up hope. I don't know. I took a break and focused on some other creative projects. And then I want to say maybe it was sometime after 2020, I wanted to get back into writing again. And I thought the best way to do that would be form a writing group. So I put out, I knew a couple people that were interested in writing, a couple friends. I kind of put out an open call on social media asking for anyone that was looking to join a writing group. And to my surprise, I think there was 7 people, I think 6 or 7 that responded and said yes. And that writing group was great. It was really helpful for a long time. But and during that time, I was working on a couple different projects. One of which that is one that I'm currently working on called Peregrine, and that is a science fiction story, kind of like a science fiction Robin Hood, but not quite. I'll probably share more about that later. But the point is, the writing group was going well for a time. Unfortunately, I had to leave for reasons that had nothing to do with the group itself. And once again, I kind of found myself, lacking motivation to continue to write. And, I've also done a few things here and there. Now things are coming to my mind. I've written for, blogs for a movie slash video game slash TV website. I've tried doing Medium articles before, but oftentimes I feel like it's not what I want to be doing, which is storytelling, really creating worlds and characters that I can get into. So just recently, I guess it was sometime this year, 2023, I started another writing group, thinking, well, maybe I'll look for more local writers. And then that way we could eventually meet up and maybe go to some conventions and things like that. Actually, I guess it was late 2022 that I started the group. Anyways, we met a couple times and I thought things were going well. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out for one reason or another. And so here I am. So to date, I've been in 3 writing groups. I've gone to 1 writing excuses retreat. I have 2 or 3 personalized rejections, and that's about it. And I am very much the kind of person that needs some kind of external motivation. I struggle to come up with internal motivations a lot of times. So with writing, especially, where you're not getting feedback until you start putting it out there, and that honestly takes a while, it can be really difficult to force yourself to sit down and write. That's why I came up with this channel. I was talking with somebody close to me, and they suggested, well, why don't you create some form of accountability for yourself that keeps you engaged and keeps you writing. And then I thought back to an idea that someone gave me a long time ago, which is, document your writing process. And at the time, I was like, no one wants to see behind the scenes for how books are written, especially if not for authors that have not published anything. But then I started thinking about it more, and I was like, well, who says it needs to be that? I mean, I could just come up with a vlog, down and dirty, maybe 5 to 10 minutes once a week, and then I know I have to do this vlog, and I have to say something, and so if I don't write, I don't write, and I have to say that. That was kind of my thought as far as creating accountability and external motivations. So there you have it. There's a little bit of my background as a writer. I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but that's the basic gist of it. Right now, as I said, I'm working on a trilogy, which may be a little bit more than I can chew. But we'll see. I'm excited to get back into it. Science fiction, Robin Hood-esque, and I'll probably be sharing some things from that as well. But overall, I'm going to keep this pretty broad in general and just talk about basic concepts so that anyone who's a creator can find something there. It's hard to talk about details when there's no context, right? When someone's not familiar with your world or with your characters. So if you have a similar experience or different experience and you feel like sharing it, please do. I mean, I'd love to know more. Part of the reason I'm doing this is one, the accountability, and two, to find a community. I've honestly struggled a lot to find a community, a writing community that I feel like I fit in. And so I I'd like to maybe create that community right here. So yeah, feel free to share comments, and if you feel like sharing your work, I mean, I'd be happy to read whatever people have. So stick around, and I'll see you next time.